Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. It is the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media. Signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit that share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Now, that being said, I'm going to have to say a little bit that's not in favor of the white society again today. And I make no apologies about this. I never do. Those of you who know me know this. I don't walk around beating them up or anything like that, but I don't apologize for anything negative I have to say about them. And I refuse to even listen to black people and take them seriously, those who would say that I need to somehow change that. But the truth is, this is about, as you see in the title, the pro-blacks, sincere pro-blacks versus pro-wacks. The truth is that the pro-wacks, as we call them, aren't pro-black. Now, many of you in the manosphere will say the term pro-wack, but you in your mind are thinking that their term is pro-black, but you don't understand that these are not the same people. You see, some of them are, and let's take you in the manosphere listening, some of you are and some of you aren't. But the ones you're referring to as pro-wacks with a good reason are not. And if you feel comfortable calling them pro-wacks, that's a sign. If you feel justified calling them pro-wacks, that's a sign that there's something insincerely pro-black about them. In the 1990s, the pro-blacks weren't the ones that were giving passes to drug dealers and pookies, but they would try to encourage them to do more for the community and not against it. The way that Malcolm did. Malcolm tried to reach out to them, but he didn't dwell on the street hustler. His message was palatable to the street hustler, and the NOI was able to reach out to more of the former street hustlers that wanted to turn their lives around. But that was not his focus. Many of us, unfortunately, became too focused on that. Now, ironically, to get enough in order to give something to the hood, you had to deal drugs in many cases, because being pro-black meant then and means today that you will automatically have less, unless employers are unaware that you're pro-black, meaning you're hiding it. However, whites do look for pro-black people, and they look for evidence that you are not pro-black. Many of them, if you are black and they give you an interview, they decide that they're going, even before they give you an interview, they'll look at your application and they look to see if they can find a social media account that is open with your name on it. If they find one with your name on it and it is closed, and they don't find one with your name and photograph on it that is open, they assume that you are probably pro-black. Because right now, and it has been for a while, white corporate America has been actively trying to weed out pro-black black people, sincerely pro-black black people, or insincerely for that matter. They don't mind. They are looking for the black Republican. Before there was really such a name as black Republican, they were still looking for that kind of personality, the corporate Negro. I love a challenge, and I think that black people should just rise to the challenges of today like everybody else, and slavery has nothing to do with it, and it's all in the mind, and we just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. They've been looking for that nigga. Now, if you believe that we should attempt and not give up, but you also understand what you're up against, I'm not going to say anything negative or detractory about you, because you're simply trying to see both sides of the same coin. But when you try to ignore the side of the coin that New Jersey Self-Defense, aka Sergeant Willie Pete, points out, I'm calling you a coon. End of story. You see, if you're really pro-black, and actively so, you're detectable as such. And you can't be allowed to behave as such and be undetected for too long in the interest of white America, specifically corporate white America. So it is a quandary. But a seriously pro-black individual would not tell you that you should give up all the fruits of your hard work to the second least deserving woman in the world, the second worst woman in the world, and then excuse her while she swirls. The sincere pro-black wouldn't tell you to limit yourself to specifically the Western boom shika, the Western sapphire, who despises you already because of all the negative stereotypes you will not embody, while condoning her going to not even other men of color, but specifically white men, and then turning and blaming you for that too, when she would only give you a chance when it means that you got to raise some other men's kids in the first place, no pair bonding and no cooperation with you, while you work to maintain her and her kids, on the condition also that her kids be by the worst niggas in the community. A sincere pro-black would not offer you that deal, let alone tell you to limit yourself to it. Instead, a sincere pro-black would have told you, look, man, I'm going to Africa as soon as I can, and you should go. He would have told you to go to Africa to find your wives, and then would have tried to find the nations with the best wives on the continent before he ever met you. So he would tell you something. He would at least be able to say, well, you know, I've been in this pro-black business for about maybe 2 years. What I have learned from Africans themselves is that they're unhappy in this country when they marry these women. They're happy when they marry women from this country. They would have at least told you that. And if they've been in for a long time, they would have had the data. They would have been able to tell you, look, man, I'm telling you, bro, if you're Muslim, a Muslim Ethiopian, if you're Christian, a Christian Ethiopian is good for you. They're not doing that. See, sincere black pro-blacks would tell you that, but many of them, they're old and they're retired. They wouldn't be in a living room in the USA telling you to stay put and deal with boom shika. They'd be in a living room in Ghana if they can get there. Or they'd be in a living room in the USA with a woman as interested in moving to the continent as they are, telling you this, with 2 wives from the motherland, at least if they're in the motherland, but they're not. These pro-wacks, these B1s as they call themselves, are sitting in these states. Not some of them, minus the ones who could leave. No, they're in these states telling you these things. Now, if you can't even get a decent deal from the Western black woman, and most of you in my audience cannot get one without your own flaws playing any part in this, then a sincere pro-black would tell you only one thing. Just don't get a woman from a background that is against you and your blackness unless you can move her to a black environment where she's isolated from her own people, including anti-black family members of hers. They would at least have told you that. They're not saying that. They're not saying, okay, well, eliminate the ones that are dangerous to you and your kids, like the Arab women, the Desi women, the Persian women, the Afghan women, for the same reasons they could tell you to lead a white woman on her porch. But they could not tell you to pass up other women of color whose people aren't a threat to the safety and self-esteem of your children with her. They can't even tell you that. They can't tell you to leave alone the Filipino woman or the Cambodian woman who's okay with your melanin-counted ancestry. If they're sincere, they can't tell you to leave her alone, maybe even prefer that. You see, they can't tell you to leave the Filipino or the Cambodian woman alone because if they're sincerely pro-black, they understand that she may actually be the one that prefers you to the white guy's paleness and his Viking ancestors. She may be the one exception. If these so-called pro-wacks are truly pro-black, they can't put quantity before quality. They must put quality first. And if that has to come from a non-black but non-hostile and loyal woman through no fault of yours, then how can a sincerely pro-black woman or man blame you? If your DNA is somehow inferior to actually conceive black babies, not in the minds of her, but in the minds of Boom Shika, inferior to a Pookie or a Ray Ray in idness, then aren't you doing the black race a favor by taking your penis and your DNA to other women? You aren't a nuisance to the beautiful queens and goddesses as these wannabe pro-black but really pro-whack simps would call them, because you're out there busting nuts in another woman's vagina and you're satisfied by the time you're out in the vicinity of the black woman, you see. So if you're sincerely pro-black, what good does it do to black people if you sit and wait to be chosen by exactly who's trained to find you unattractive and to never choose you until you embody your very enemy's negative and worst stereotypes about you? What is so pro-black about that? About giving her your resources when you can't give her your babies, and giving her your babies if you could? What good does it do? You know what? It actually does do a bit of good. It does the good that MOT has been saying. It merely gives them your resources and results with which to raise not your babies, but specifically the children of the worst of us, while not allowing your input into the actual upbringing itself, even when they are your babies. That's the only good it does. It does good for them, not you. But if it costs everything you earn when you do work hard and get something worthwhile, then what good is it to work and develop anything then? You have de-incentivized productivity, and that's never good for any society, is it? I mean, the USA and the Soviet Union were both wicked and deserving of a fall, but the Soviet Union fell apart first. And one of the reasons that it fell apart first, and that's not the only reason, but one of the reasons that it fell apart first is that it was worthless to work and develop in most cases, with very few exceptions. If you were a brilliant scientist, you might have a good lifestyle, but not many could rise up by working hard or smart for that matter. It wasn't happening. And the number of people that defected to the West from the Soviet Union was a lot higher than those who did the reverse. And frankly, neither world is very heroic in my eyes. But the West had one thing right, even though they got it wrong with us. And that's why I don't hold them up to high esteem either. The one thing they did have right while they got it wrong with us, which makes them even worse really, is that they did not de-incentivize productivity and ambition in people in general. They just did it to black people. And to lesser degrees to other people. They took from us and they didn't pay, but for the most part, people were allowed something of what they did. A sincerely pro-black man has no reason to tell you to keep it not only with a black woman, but the Western black woman, with the worst attitudes in our race, and to take pity on the poor black woman of Baltimore and New York, and to take care of her and her kids, but to look down on the poor black woman of Punta Cana, who isn't even asking you to take care of everybody else's kids. Because you're somehow inferior because of your morality. This is ridiculous, really, if I'm honest about it. The truth is, that's actually anti-black, no matter what they call it. So call them that, because you are usually more pro-black than they are. So don't disparage pro-blackness anymore. Disparage the pro-wacks for not being sincere to it. This is how it is that the sincere pro-black is really the one you would have never thought. It's just like that movie, The Last Dragon. He went out looking for the master. He thought his teacher was the master. It turns out that in this case, just like in that movie, the master's actually been you. As long as you're not one of those that just dislikes black women because they're black with nappy hair and high melanin counts and wide noses and big lips, then you are actually the one that is pro-black, not them. That's the truth of the matter. You've been running away from something, most of you in this manosphere, in my audience, you've been running away from something that actually has been in you. And you've wound up by default winning in terms of sincerity because of their lack of sincerity. How dare these niggas tell you they pro-black, but then tell you to take the worst of the race, while you have to do and be and have the best. How dare these niggas tell you something like that? No. That's not acceptable. Not at all. So, that being said, at the end of the day, you're the master. Stop running from it. Stop disparaging it. Disparage the fakers, not the actual platform itself. Thank you for listening. I hope that one day this is no longer necessary, and in the meantime, I hope it helps. The blackest of the black, signing black out. Assalamu alaikum. And black, heterosexual, male power, specifically because these fathermuckers don't like it.